The reason why your discipline turns her off is because she's a loser. This doesn't get said enough, right? This doesn't get said enough about women and specifically these modern day women of today's time. She's a loser, bro. The word loser is quickly thrown around when it's time to refer to men who are either non-ambitious or not necessarily where they should be in life or still actually building in life. But forget all that. We're going to call a spade a spade. There's so many women who are losers out here. Too many, honestly. So for you men who are actually headed somewhere, for you men who actually have high standards for yourself and the people who are around you. You have high standards for your body. You have high standards for your mind, right? You have high standards as far as, who you allow in your circle, right? What you internalize, right? For those of you who have high standards, right? And women want to attach themselves to that because they see you headed somewhere, right? They see you headed somewhere. They want to be a part of the journey, but they don't want to be a part of the discipline. They don't want to be a part of the consistency. They don't want to actually hold your hand or vice versa. You hold their hand while you get to the finish line. No, of course, we've heard this before, right? They want the finished product, but even still, that finished product have to hold on to the product that he has achieved, correct? But most women cannot handle it. Neither do they actually want to. You got to understand something, gentlemen. Many women today, they just want to experience their fantasies. They want to experience the delusions that they've been fed from time and time again, all the way all since grade school. They've been fed these delusions and these fantasies since grade school. They have this idealistic version of what a masculine man is. They have this idealistic version of what a provider male is. But much of it is false. Much of it is false. They think that they're going to be riding private jets and on vacations 365 days a year while he actually works on a business full time 50, 60, 70, 80 hours and somehow find the time to actually take her out at the take her out to the best restaurants in town and give her all of his time and attention. This is the world that they live in. This is the world that they live in. Meanwhile, none of that is realistic. None of it is realistic. What it takes to achieve something as a man, it requires discipline. What it takes to achieve something as a man, it takes an extreme amount of focus. What it takes to get to where you need to as a man, it is going to take every inch of your soul, mind, and body to get there, especially in today's time where it is getting harder and harder for us as men to climb the ladder. The discipline turns her off, right? It initially turns her on. Let me reword that, rephrase that. It initially turns her on because guess what? A lot of men today aren't on their purpose. They're not on their purpose either. A lot of men today are not headed in the right direction. A lot of men today have been steered wrong. So when she come across a man like you, right? Disciplined, consistent, purpose driven, ambitious. When she come across a man like you, you're already rare in the first place, right? You're already rare. You're already in rare form. She's a loser, so she's come across so many other losers, right? Like minds attract. So all she knows is losers. So when she finally come across you, when she gets to feeling that aura, right? When she gets started starts to get a taste of what it feels like to be next to a purpose-driven man. When she starts to get a feel for what it feels like to be next to an ambitious man. Oh yeah, she's going. She's going to fold. But here's the thing. She just wanted your energy. She just wanted your time. Maybe even wanted your money, right? Attention. She wanted all of that from you. That's really, honestly, gentlemen, that's really the main thing a lot of these women want nowadays. They just want your money, energy, attention, and time. Shout out to coach. They just want your money, energy, attention, and time. They could care less about the discipline. They can care less about who you are. They can care less about what it took for you to get to where you are. They could care less about where you're going. They just want it to be a part of the fantasy. That's it. They just want bragging rights to say that, hey, I slept with that guy. Hey, that guy, I remember back then he tried to get at me and I shot him down. Yeah, that guy, he tried to buy me drinks at this bar one day and so blase, blase, blah. They just want bragging rights to say that I dealt with that guy when he was here. I dealt with that guy when he was climbing up. Yeah, he was a real cool guy. Yep, he was disciplined and consistent, before he even got there. Yeah, I met him. Yeah, I went to his apartment. Yeah, I've been to his house. He invited me here. They just want bragging rights to say that they dealt with you. They could care less about the discipline. They could care less. Because here's the thing, here's the main thing, gentlemen. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Right? Let's get into the meats and potatoes, right? The primary reason that discipline turns her off, that discipline about yourself, right? The primary reason it turns her off because women do not want to up the standards. They don't want to rise to the occasion of what it took for you to get there, right? For all of you purpose driven men out there, all of you ambitious men, your standards to even get to the point, to the mindset that you're in, your standards have to be high, correct? So guess what? The standards are going to be high for any women that you deal with, supposed to be. So she's going to see you doing this. She's going to see you in the gym. She's going to see you eating right. She's going to see you meditating. She's going to see you putting in time and attention into your craft. She's going to see you doing all of these things and she's going to look at herself like, "Damn, what else do I have to offer a man like this? But punani, but box, but the cootie cat, but the punani. What else do I have to offer this man besides that?" So instead of them rising to the occasion, instead of them rising to meet your standards, instead of them getting on the same page as you, right? They'll just take a little spin on the ride. Ooh, doo, 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 doo. They'll just take a little spin on a ride just to say they rode that ride, right? But some women, they may get on it one, two, three times, right? And stay on the ride. They may fall in love with the ride. But for most women, 99% of them at this point, they'll get on that ride one time, and then they'll hop right off and leave you standing right where you are, right? They don't care about it, man. They could care less about it. The majority of women, and this is people in general, but the majority of women, especially in America, are not even in shape. They're not even in shape because guess why? There's going to be some slump buster that looks just like her, or maybe not. Maybe there's going to be some 6 foot Chad or Tyrone are still gonna bust her down. But what's one of the main reasons why women don't feel the need to increase the standards in the first place, to raise the standards in the first place for themselves, to meet the expectations of men in the first place. Because as long as they can get some digging stick, as long as they can get some digging stick, they're not going to feel the need to get in the gym. They're not going to feel the need to eat right, even if it's for their own well-being. They're not going to feel the need to. If Slopaloposaurus is if Miss Slopaloposaurus, if Miss Piggly Wiggly can go out to the club, right? And you know the broke boys, they can't get no baddie. They can't get no baddie. So they of course they gotta lower the expectations. They gotta lower their standards. So guess who they going after? They're going after Slopaloposaurus, right? They're going after Slopaloposaurus. They're going after Piggly Wiggly. That's who they're going after. And they're not doing nothing but giving her time, giving her their attention, right? Giving her the meat. That's all they're doing. So guess what? In her head, in her fantasy world, in her delusional world, right? She's dealing with losers. These are losers. They have no standards for themselves. Clearly have no standards for themselves. That if they're dealing with a woman that has no standards for themselves, no high expectations for themselves. So she's dealing with losers, but she's thinking that all men are willing to sleep with her. She's thinking if I can get these men, well, surely there must be other men who are willing to give me the same exact thing right here at this moment, how I look right now. I'm a fat Slopaloposaurus. So clearly there must be other men out here who like fat Slopaloposauruses. And no surprise, there are men who like fat Slopaloposaurus. So as long as there are men who like fat Slopaloposaurus, as long as there are men who are losers and who have no high expectations of themselves or for the people that are around them, then it's going to be exactly how it is. It'll never change. Women will never change because guess what? That previous guy that she was dealing with, he didn't require anything of her. He didn't have the utmost discipline, right? So then when they come across a guy of such nature, like yourself, hopefully, when they come across a guy of such stature, such aura, right? Of course they're attracted to it. Initially, of course they're attracted to it. But then when you start to get into the meats and potatoes, when you start to require things, when you start to tell them, hey, you need to get in the gym, right? When they can't meet you on a time metric as far as waking up on time, being places on time, right? When it's time to actually dig in, oh, they fall out. They lose their shit. They call time out, coach, time out. They can't do it. It gets too hard. And you got to understand too, gentlemen, a lot of women today, they don't want to feel like the inferior. They don't want to feel like the inferior. See, the thing about women, man, they always want to ensure that they have a one up. They always want to ensure that they have the leverage, right? By any means necessary. And that can mean a variety of different things, but they always want the leverage. They always want the step ahead. So if they cannot find a way to gain leverage over a guy who is clearly superior than they are, right? And not a loser, purpose driven, ambitious, right? Headed places, then they're going to do whatever they can to take that leverage away from you and gain that leverage back for themselves, whether that means through marriage, whether that means through a relationship, whether that means through trapping you with a child. That could mean a variety of different things. And many of these women will throw you off your purpose. Best believe it. They will purposefully throw you off your purpose. Why? Why would they do such a thing? You ask yourself, why? Why does that make sense? Wouldn't a woman want to be with a man who is purpose driven? No. Yes and no. A healthy minded woman would. A woman who has a healthy relationship with gender dynamics and you're a woman and I'm a man, like yeah, those type women who were raised correctly, those types, yeah. But for the most, no. For the most who are mentally ill, no, not at all. Because if you are in a higher position, you no longer need her, right? If you always have the leverage, where does that leave her? Where does that leave her position? Mind you, I told you, many of these women, most of these women are used to dealing with losers. They're used to dealing with men who need them. They're used to dealing with men who need their validation, who are seeking their validation. That is where we are today. 2025, going into 2026. It is much worse. This is where we are today. Men seeking women's approval, men seeking women's validation, right? Losers. That's who women primarily deal with. And they're okay with dealing with them. They complain about it all day long. Oh, this man, he's not paying this 50-50, blah, 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 blah. They complain about it all day long. But truth be told, when it comes down to it, they'll rather deal with the bum. They would rather deal with the loser. Now, would she still have her arsenal of men? Would she still have her arsenal of beta male orbiters? Will she still have her arsenal of Chads and Tyrones to dig deep into them guts? Yes, of course she will. But as far as long term, she would rather deal with the bomb. Yep, I don't care what you heard. She would rather deal with the bomb. Many women today would rather deal with the bomb because at least with the bomb of a man, they can feel superior than that man. When they are in a relationship with a man who is purpose driven, a man who is headed places, or a man who is already there, and he is just bringing her along, adding her to his palace, right? They are going to feel inferior to that man. And I'll take it a step further. They're going to try to push that man away from his purpose. Yep. They're going to try to limit that man, mainly because they don't want you in that position, because their minds have already been infected. They're losers. They're losers. We got to start calling what it is. Many women today are losers. They're losers. They have low expectations of themselves. They don't have high expectations of themselves. They live in delusional fantasy land, right? They deal with loser men who have nothing going on for themselves. So when they finally come across a man like you, they want to sabotage it, right? They want to bring you down on to their level, to the loser's level, instead of rising to the occasion. It's madness out here. Pure madness. And that's an after pill.